In yesterday's video, we went over a minimum corrective target for Bitcoin during this current lull in price action. And in today's video, I want to be following up on that and then also expanding into, I suppose, a little bit more of the medium term here, as there could be a major reversal kind of pending on the backs of this. So first things first, let's bring you back to where we were at yesterday. We were looking at this very simple setup right here, which is that red moving average crossing to the downside of that yellow moving average. That's a 5 versus a 21. And throughout the full history of Bitcoin, we've seen a minimum corrective target of the 55 exponential, the green moving average right here, being hit pretty much every time that does happen. There were some instances, of course, in the earlier portions of Bitcoin where that did not indeed happen, although it did get very, very close, I should add. But as you can see, even over the last 5 or 6 years here, every time that this happened, you did see a correction down to that region. I'll give you one example, a really good example right here would be, of course, in 2024, last year in April, you saw the cross to the downside happen right here, and the test to that 55 exponential moving average happening, actually in this case, like a couple weeks later, I think it was, 14 days later. In many cases, it does happen a lot sooner than that, but a lot of the time, or some of the time it can look like this as well, which I think is kind of what we're getting right now. Could Bitcoin get a bounce in the in between meeting that minimum corrective target? I mean, of course, anything's possible. I mean, you see some like that right here. But most importantly, that bounce is extremely unlikely to take out the last prior major high. As you can see for this for this past iteration, that would be this high right here. So applying to that to our current trajectory, we can see that, the minimum corrective target has not been hit. And by the way, when I say minimum, that means on a wick low minimum, but of course, we can see it go lower than that in some cases, but I'm not necessarily of that opinion, or at least if that were to happen, then I would have to switch around some of my more higher term time frame ideas on this one. But as you can see, that 55 is coming in, or maybe you can't see, but it's about 92,700 or so. So do be aware of that. Until Bitcoin fulfills that area, I would be looking at this as still likely to play out a correction lower. We'll even show this on the backtesting script for the quant prime skeleton key. But going over here, I would generally say that as long as a 2-day time frame stochastic oscillator is positioned to the downside, which it will be as long as Bitcoin's below 102,000 US dollars, that target is very, 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 very likely to get hit. But again, as actually we'll go over this a little bit later, that doesn't mean that like I'm full on bearish, just this short-term move. But there's really only short-term moves to be speaking about right now, because Bitcoin's boring as fuck. It's boring as fuck. Why are you watching these videos? Do you have no life? Well, welcome to the place to be for no lives, because I have no life as well. I'm recording this video while we're here in Tampa. It's actually very, very beautiful. I'm looking forward to exploring the city today. But before that, we have to talk about some autistic magic internet money business. And I would also like to just show this very quickly on the skeleton key. I did backtest this one throughout the full history of Bitcoin. We can see that 71 spot 43% of the time, the 55 was hit. But I did not. It is a little bit more nuanced when you are trying to actually script this in, because a lot of the time the test of the 55 happened on the exact same dildo that caused the cross to begin with between the 5 and the 21. So this script picked those up actually as losses in that case, which is why I suspect we are getting less than like 90% profitable rate right there. Anyways, moving on from there, yes, we spoke about how that is likely as long as the 2-day time frame oscillator is positioned to the downside. That pivot is 102. It will change obviously upon tonight's closure, and of course, with I think Trump came out earlier and he said that the big tariffs are coming coming today. So perhaps that coincides, or perhaps that's going to be the impetus to actually test down around there. But as we've seen this market kind of evolve, especially over the past month and a half now since tariff talk began, the moves to the downside based off of those talks has just been less and less every time. So it seems like the market is kind of getting, I guess, less enthusiastic about that, or less emotional about that. Either which way, it could very easily be, and in fact, if you are bullish, it's probably going to look like this, a test to the downside here. And then close the day probably unchanged, somewhere around where it's at right now. I do think that that's very possible, and that's kind of like the bullish view, if you will. Also on that note, Bitcoin here, if I do put it on a very simple line chart, you can see, let me get rid of these moving averages, but you can see that Bitcoin as of right now is still on a higher low compared to the January 11th low and also the December 30th low right here. So there is potential alongside the 2-day time frame RSI to actually put in another drive of hidden bullish divergence if Bitcoin can confirm a local low here. So what does that imply? It implies that we really don't expect to see Bitcoin below on a closing basis about $93,000. It can get a wick down around there. That's fine. Just don't want to see closures below there because that does start to call into question a lot of things. And from there, if Bitcoin does obviously pop back on up and close somewhere around here, especially above, let's go over, let me go back to my hollow dildos, especially above about $98,500, this is going to look like a confirmed local low, which would be a higher low alongside lower lows on the 2-day time frame RSI, thus hidden bullish divergence confirmed, and probably looking at another March back above $100,000, probably 103, 104 target on that one. But of course, that's a little bit further away. And again, I personally have to lean towards another test of the downside as long as this condition over here is not met. So like I said, we have seen a couple occurrences, although they were about 6 years ago, where it did not get exactly down to the 55, although it did get very, very close. You could even say that this is very, very close enough. In fact, the 786 is right around that region as well. But again, it doesn't need to happen like right now. I mean, it could very well be, like I said, Bitcoin pops up first, then comes down, and then plays out the move, or maybe it does it today. Again, that I don't have strong opinions on because obviously I can't fucking tell the future. Probably you can't tell it as well. Maybe no one can tell it. I love it when I see YouTube comments that are like, "What you didn't predict it exactly perfectly." It's like, you fucking ignoramus. How can you be this dumb? How can you be this dumb? Look, I get stuff wrong all the time, but for fuck's sake, like, it's never going to be perfect. Like, for fuck's sake. The LARP lines are just general ideas, just in case that is not clear. Although I do suspect that for the overwhelming majority of people on this channel, that is abundantly clear, at least from the comments that I gather. But holy shit, like, sometimes you scroll the comments, you're like, what the fuck, dude? Like, how do you get dressed in the morning? You're an idiot. Anyways, sorry, I'm not trying to be super offensive here, but it is just an observation. Anyways, yeah. With all of that said, when we go over here, or a few days ago, I think it was on Monday, I was saying that Bitcoin is going to very likely test the median on the 2-day time frame, the daily time frame HPDR for CME, based off of the HPDRO reads right here, and that actually has happened today. So obviously the median was dragged down significantly here. That is now at about $97,500. If Bitcoin could reclaim that median on a daily closing basis, again, for CME right now operating about, more than $1,000 below, but it's a long day left to go, obviously. I guess a rally first would be very likely, or a rally first maybe to about $101,000, $102,000, quite likely. But it's still going to bother me if that 55 is not tested before a move like that does occur. Anyways, maybe that's just my own issues. So, in fact, it is my own issues. So fair enough. I did want to also state, just even disregarding the potential for hidden bullish divergence right here, I do still think that this isn't done. Well, hold on. Regardless of the hidden bullish divergence right here, if Bitcoin can pop back above this sort of last breakdown from very early February at about 102 or so on a closing basis, that would probably also be good enough for me to say, hey, 55 is not going to be tested exactly on this, iteration for this setup, and it's going to be upwards and onwards from there. But again, that's well and far away, but always need a condition to kind of identify when that is when that is likely. Anyways, and yeah, this is all to say that long term, you know, I don't think that the market cycle is over or anything like that. At least not yet. At least not yet. Again, as long as the monthly stochastic oscillator is positioned to the upside at minimum, I'm not gonna like. It's just not wise to be bearish. Again, timing, at least in my opinion, doesn't make sense to be bearish right now. And for what it's worth, the monthly momentum remains the upside as long as Bitcoin's above 92,700. So, you know, it's got a nice little buffer there. Still with, I mean, we are literally less than halfway through this month, although very, very close to the halfway point. And February has generally been a very good month for Bitcoin in the history books, with February, you know, being actually positive for every odd year in Bitcoin's history. Just kind of like a weird stat there, but I'll leave the more intensive stats for another video. I think that's good enough for this one. I did want to make a very quick announcement here. I got a message from the Blowfin guys, the Blowfin guys, the Blow Me guys. No, kidding. They actually are quite good. They are actually having an event right now, and if you do use the link in the description below, you can indeed not just enter a trading competition, which actually has a $5.5 million prize. What the fuck? But they're also offering $100,000 in deposit and trade rewards, shit like that. There will be more information on that on their site if you're interested in such things. As always, you know, if you're going to be using one of these highly leveraged exchanges, be fucking careful. If you're not already an experienced trader and if you're not already successful, probably not going to be a great endeavor for you to get involved in. Just my personal 2 cents. I always feel like I have to say that because I know that most people are going to get wrecked. Most people are going to get wrecked even during times like this when price has literally been fucking sideways since February 5th. Almost 10 full days of essentially no change. Essentially no fucking change. Anyways, that's where I'll leave things off on today's video. As always, want to wish everyone the best. Take care. Much love. Maybe we'll have a face video tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe we'll even try a live stream here as well. It looks like the internet quality is quite good. So, yeah. Take care. Much love. And see you hopefully tomorrow.